So we've got a great conversation ahead of us, but before we get into it, a little bit of a plug because you're moderating a panel tomorrow on brand transformation. So tell us about it. What are we discussing while we're here this week?
Appreciate the ad. So there's 4 brands on stage tomorrow. It's us, Inspire Brands, the restaurant group, Shopify, and Zillow. So master marketers in all of their fields. And the theme is brand transformation with authenticity. Because I think that a lot of brands think about brand transformation, they want to go after new target audiences, they want to talk to new segments of their business. We've got some funny stories tomorrow, so make sure you turn up, about maybe they've gone a step too far, where they've sort of broken that connective tissue between where they thought the business had license to play and maybe where it didn't, and they heard pretty loudly from their consumers that they went a step too far. And then when I think about why Taboola's on stage, we've gone through our own brand transformation over the last probably, I would say, 2 years, where we have been on this march for premium inventory, premium ad quality, really ever since we did a deal with Yahoo about 2 years ago. They're now considered a sister company of ours where we power all of their native placements through the Yahoo ecosystem. But then we also did a pretty landmark deal with Apple News and Apple Stocks. We're the only global reseller in all 4 of their markets, US, UK, Canada, and Australia. And then, of course, earlier this year, totally reinvented our ads platform for all of our clients and agencies out there, renamed it the Realize platform. And really, the genesis of that was, in terms of our transformation, which is why we're on stage tomorrow, is at the heart of our business, we always believe that we are a performance marketing platform. We just happen to serve that through native placements. But we realized that if we wanted to serve more clients and continue to grow like we have been, we really need to not be the big fish in the small pond, and that the notion or our brand label or brand identity of being a dominant native player was really sort of holding us back. So now we say to clients, since the start of the year, think of us as a performance platform, but we're now performance anywhere on the page.
Yeah.
So we've got a network of about 11,000 publishers. We're hard-coded on page. There's a lot of sort of detail as to why we're there, but that has been a fairly giant shift for our company. I think, we're not a small company, we're not a big company, we're global though. And I think to see the change in our own transformation, both internally and then how we've put ourselves on the market, particularly in front of what has been at times a skeptical B2B audience of our business, has been, quite a big shift. And so events like this at Cannes, South by, possible in Miami, we are now sort of taking a much more serious view on what performance means for the marketplace and what our role is within that.
Yeah. Highly recommend that session, by the way, because one of my favorite things, people always ask me, what does it take to have a good session at Advertising Week? Multiple perspectives. That's multiple perspectives.
And there's good stories. So we've been doing prep sessions with the brands, right? So we've been encouraging each of the folks on stage with us tomorrow is tell us the story. Don't coat it in sugar and make it seem like it was all fine.
It's going to be great.
But I think tomorrow will be good.
Should be fun. You've been in the industry for a while, and so you've seen a lot of change. I'm curious what it was that was happening in the market that made you rethink that old full funnel model.
So I'm a little bit of an oddity in ad tech and digital. So before this job, I was at LinkedIn, but before that, I was a creative agency person for the most part.
Yeah.
So I used to run the Toyota business for Toyota and Lexus business for Saatchi's, and they were the first ones I think that started to open my eyes. Because before that, I ran some P&G business for a long time, and they were way back when, very traditional sort of, let's do 400 GRPs a week and TV and maybe some magazine, and then we're going to put some shelf coupons out there and we'll sell some Pantene shampoo. I think what Toyota taught me a long time ago was they were masters at measuring who bought their cars, and when they lost a sale, where that person went to, and when they sold a car, where that person came from. And then they did the hard work of going out and talking to those consumers. Because I think, full funnel marketing, we would argue, has been dead for a while. I know there's a lot of debate out there, but I think it was really back, the journey started for me in terms of opening my eyes, was just how Toyota really measured their business and then how they spoke to their consumers and understood the pain points. And I think particularly for a large purchase like a car, consumers would get them all the way down to the funnel. We go, oh, we're about to sell a fill in the blank, Toyota Corolla, and then they'd leave the funnel forever.
Yeah.
Disenfranchised. Maybe interest rates changed. Maybe they saw a different car. Maybe they had a bad experience on the showroom floor with the dealer, and they kind of gave a bit of a middle finger to the process and left.
That's it. Yeah.
And then to get them back was really expensive and really hard to find them at scale. And so the Toyota, I think, were masters of that. And then a number of years later, I worked for a number of years at Digitas, ended up running the Chicago office. And they were equally good at prescribing not the funnel. They were masters at measuring everything. We would talk a lot about the McKinsey loop, but I think the McKinsey loyalty loop, for the most part, accounts for that loss of people as they get frustrated in their buying process. And then I think fast forward to today, where we have technology and platforms like ours, where a lot of the conversations I'm having with clients has really been around, is the funnel alive or is it dead? Our point of view is it's been dead for a while. Well, then what do you do with what you've got and how you move people through that? So the story that I use an automotive story. And I kind of say, look, if you're talking to Ford Motor Company, do they really need to tell the country that there's a Ford car out there? Or can they do that more efficiently with other means? But if the dealer network on the bottom of the funnel is calling them and saying, Saturday footfall traffic is low, people aren't pricing and building a car online, or we're not getting test drives booked at the level we like, then I tell clients, you've got a mid-funnel storytelling issue. That is a mid-funnel content issue that you can accomplish both. You might have heard of the term brand to demand, where, and at LinkedIn we talked a lot about this as well, putting brand elements in a demand gen ad that could somehow straddle the difference between the two. And I think that's something that we talk about, but certainly being more efficient with the money and being more creative with your creative assets in terms of concentrating on where are people really stuck. And our prescription right now is we are not a full funnel platform at all. And the chances are that they are going to get better ROI if they focus on mid-funnel and move their consumers more efficiently down.
You know, you've talked a lot about the role of good content.
Yep.
I'm curious, with all the automation and AI out there, which is something we're going to be talking about all week, by the way,
right.
Can't not mention AI, how do you keep creativity at the heart of performance?
So I've got a bit of a biased point of view on this. I've got a lot of friends and colleagues, particularly in this city, who I worked with in the creative agencies. And I do think that there is a fine line between what AI can do for us in terms of content generation and what is a true human truth that I think might be beyond the limits of machine learning today to generate creativity that is really going to compel people to take action. I think that I read an interesting post from an old mate of mine on LinkedIn who's a creative director in New York, and he said, what do we do when AI is developing creative at scale so much that everything looks perfect? And then suddenly, what's the differentiation between the creativity that's out there and what content we put in front of consumers? And I thought that was a great point, because some of the best creative work I've been involved in my career has been when we've made mistakes in real time, filming stuff on set or producing content. An unexpected line from an actor that we were like, that's not in the script, but man, that was gold, let's keep that. Or maybe a mistake where it was maybe a bit of a raw moment, and you think, but that's reality. Let's show maybe an unvarnished view on what this looks like. One of the things that Bev, not to give away a spoiler alert, that Bev's going to talk about from Zillow on stage tomorrow is really about that brand's role in authentically acknowledging what the consumer journey is like in buying a home. And if you look at some of the other brands out there that sort of maybe put a celebrity or two into their content and treat it as a bit of a fun exercise full of rainbows and kittens, we all know that's not true. Bev's got a stat that she said some percentage of people cry in the process of buying a home. And I think that's what content's role is, that maybe AI, maybe not today, but might struggle with in the future, is how do you represent that true, unvarnished view on what it's like to have a human experience or represent an insight to then reflect what that brand's role is in that consumer journey.
I think that's kind of the big lesson to take out of this week as it relates to AI is it lacks that human experience.
Right.
And that is always going to be the advantage. And it lacks all the mistakes that we're learning. I like to think that my best mistakes are still ahead of me to learn from. To go back to the funnel, I've heard you use the term full funnel to full focus.
Yep.
What does it mean? What does it look like for brands?
So I think there's a big distinction out there in the market, and I think it's probably certainly the advice that we give our clients. You've got to separate the conversation between businesses out there who are claiming full funnel and the journey that the consumers are really going through. And the difference in our view is there's a lot of businesses out there that claim that they're full funnel. In reality, very few can do it. Very few, probably less than 5, can do it at scale, which means it's probably bullshit for most of the others that are claiming it. And I think if we put all of that conversation aside and then get really granular, get our hands dirty, look at the data, look at the signals, and then go speak to some real humans and understand what their journey is like, I think we're going to find out pretty quickly that this notion of I saw a TV ad or an outdoor poster and I listened to a streaming ad on Spotify and then I saw some longer form content in a PDF and then I suddenly magically picked up the phone and booked to something. ask for a consult with a financial advisor. It just doesn't happen that way.
No.
And then the other conversation we're having with our clients is this compression of the funnel that's happening and the benefit of technology and signals, particularly like we get on our platform, help us accelerate some of those. And particularly for us, we say quite proudly, we're not a full funnel. If you want to go drive awareness for your brand, go buy TV, radio, outdoor all day long.
Yeah.
But that's not us.
Yeah.
And I'd almost hypothesize, without offending anyone in the room, if there's a business out there that's claiming full funnel, that's not one of the 3 that can actually do it for real, there might be a strategy issue inside that business where they're a little bit afraid to sort of maybe walk away from a positioning because there might be $1 left on the table. And what if we have a conversation with a client or an agency or a brand that says, oh, we will do awareness, and they can say yes to that. Right. I think the best businesses, in my view, and this is something we look at all the time because we have tens of thousands of clients across the platform, the best clients are the ones with the most focused strategy that say no to the things they know they're not good at and really double down on the things that they are.
Yeah,
and I think that's where full funnel marketing, separate the noise from the businesses that are claiming it and get real about what the experience is that consumers are really facing in your own buying cycle.
It's a good piece of advice. What's the first move that brands who are just getting into this should be doing?
Do that.
Do that.
Work out who's trying to book time on your calendar and who's trying to pitch you something. Get a great insights team, get a great strategy team, hire a fantastic agency, get them to look at all the signals and all of the data and then get their hands dirty and talk to real consumers. I think that without the human element in that instance, it's really hard to understand where to start. And I think you'll get nuggets of inspiration just from having real consumers and then marrying that really smartly with signals that validate that.
So we've spoken about a bunch of shifts, right, in terms of AI and automation and in terms of the funnel. And what's been the most surprising shift that you've seen since being at Taboola?
I think, as I said before, we're not a big company, but we're not a small company. We are global. We've been around for a while, 17 years. And to go through the change that we've gone through in the last probably, I would say, 2 years, and more importantly, the last sort of 9 months since we announced the Realize platform, has been the company's willingness to make change and not hold on to sacred cows and change offerings, product, people in some instances around what is right for the business and more importantly, what's right for our clients and our agencies to really drive true lower funnel performance. Yeah. Saying no to upper funnel for us was a big deal. The sales team, which one of the parts of my job is I lead for North America, were sort of shouting very loudly, we want some of these things because we're talking to clients about what they might give us $1 for. Yeah. And the company walked away from it. And I think it was entirely the right decision. So I think the momentum that we're seeing in the business now around how we even get reaction from certainly very large clients. I was in LA a few weeks ago talking to one of the major car brands out there. And, they're actually surprised by us saying, we don't do full funnel. Don't talk to us if it's awareness. If it's awareness, we'll give you back your time. Yeah. But if you're not getting the right number of test drives booked on a Saturday morning, then we're your platform to talk about that. Right. And their eyes light and they said, wow, that's a really brave point of view to say no to things. And I think the company's willingness to say no to things that we've historically been pretty good at to really drive home that performance positioning.
Let's close on the same question. We're going to hop in our time machine now. We'll get in our DeLorean or our phone booth for Bill and Ted fans and travel a year ahead and welcome. What are we talking about? Let's look to the future.
I think the big things. I think creativity and AI's role in that will always be an ongoing conversation topic. I think measurement is going to be a giant one. The thing I'm surprised about, and this is also going back in time a little bit, and I was at Digitask probably 10 years ago now, we were prescribing to clients all the way back then multi-touch attribution. It's really, really, really hard. And it still shocks me to this day, the number of big brands I walk into and have a meeting with and they go, yeah, we do last touch. And the analogy or the story that our head of analytics at Digitask at the time would tell me, it's like, and would tell clients, it's like, that's like giving the guy that shot the last point in basketball, giving him 100% attribution for shooting the basket. But it took 5 guys or 5 women to get the ball down from one end of the court to the other. Yeah. And I still use that example today. So I think measurement's going to be a big one. I think that we will still have businesses out there who are afraid to walk away from the full funnel positioning for fear of leaving $1 on the table. And I'm hopeful that clients and agencies are starting to have conversations around separating the noise and the business and what people are trying to sell them versus the journey that consumers are really on.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to having that conversation in a year with you. I want to thank everyone here. I want to thank everyone watching at home. I want to thank you again, and enjoy Advertising Week. Enjoy day 2, folks.
Yeah,
Have
thanks
fun.
very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.